Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. We're continuing our countdown into the NFL draft with our team by team specific 7-round mock drafts. Today, we are going to be hitting and touching on the Green Bay Packers. Now, Packers are in a little bit of an interesting spot. They're probably going to have some more draft capital come draft night, considering they're probably going to trade Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. But at this point in time, they have not. So we're going to just be rolling with the picks that they have, give you a general idea some of the guys, players, positions, and everything that they're going to be looking at throughout the draft cycle. Like I said, things are going to be different for them. This is what we're going to rock with for now. To mock draft simulator, some things are going to be a little crazy from time to time. But I'm going to look to get them a weapon one way or the other. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best receiver in the class, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be here come draft night. So, I'm not going to go there. I think he's probably going to be gone for the Packers. But I do really like all of these tight ends. And for the Packers specifically, I think Michael Mayer makes a ton of sense. And that's just where I'm going to go. I'm going to give him Michael Mayer. He's just super solid tight end. He can do a lot of things well. And just, he just kind of got that Packer vibe to him. A little bit of more of an old school tight end. They can be a really reliable safety net, but still got some more juice, some route running ability for more of the modern day tight ends. He's just a very good tight end prospect, all things considered. And the Packers need to continue to give Jordan Love, I suppose, all the weapons he can have. And Michael Mayer is a phenomenal pick. I do not care if he's a tight end. He is very good. Play very good in the NFL. So now we're here in the second round. Obviously, they're still in need of, some receivers. I don't necessarily think I'm going to go tight end receiver first two picks, but in all honesty, it's not really out of the question. I'm gonna take a look in the edge department. There's a lot of guys here that I think work for the Packers. I'm gonna go ahead and I've given Keon White to some few teams in this draft cycle already, but I'm gonna give him Derek Hall from Auburn. Hall's a guy that I feel like has kind of been rising these last few days to weeks, especially on draft Twitter. But he's just really reliable. He's got a lot to like about his game. He's a really good run defender. His pass rushing ability keeps improving year in and year out. And the Packers like their edge rushers, but they need to get younger. They need to add a little bit more juice, and I think Hall can do just that for them. So I'm gonna go and look at the wide receiver room. You look at the receivers they have. They have Christian Watson. They have Romeo Doubs. It's so I think there's definitely some interesting builds they can have. I like Marvin Mims a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. I've also mocked him a lot to some other teams, so I'm gonna go away from him. And I'm gonna go a bit of a different route. I'm gonna give him Tyler Scott from Cincinnati. Tyler Scott's got a lot of Tyler Lockett in his game. He's a slender, a little bit smaller receiver, but he can just stretch the field vertically so extremely well. He can just get open. He uses his speed perfectly to help him when it comes to getting open. He just knows how to use the abilities and the skill set he has. Honestly, maybe more than any receiver in this draft class. He's very technically refined for a wide receiver, especially that went to Cincinnati. But he can give him some speed from the slot, from the outside. Just give him another field stretcher, another reliable option that they can put on the field with Doubs and Christian Watson. Maybe not even done in that category either. Let's go ahead and take a look at some safeties. There's the safety class is, I don't want to say, it's just not that good this year. There's definitely some guys to like. There definitely is. So, but just at this range for the Packers, there's really not. Martin's okay. I like Joseph a little bit. Hickman's good a little later. Maybe I'll try to target one of them with the next pick. But for now, I'm going to continue to look around and just find some other options. I know corner isn't on the board for them, but there's some guys I can definitely kind of play that corner safety hybrid role of things. But nobody like that is really available either. There's a defensive line that kind of stuck out to me, and these Texas defensive linemen are pretty solid. They're a really good duo, but Ojomo has a little more pass rushing skill set to his game. He's very solid in the run game as well. Coburn's literally just more of your true nose. Ojmo can be a little bit more 3-tech. He can play a little bit over the ball. He can do a little bit of everything. He can really help stop the run. He can also develop into a, he has more of that developmental pass rusher traits that you look for when you're drafting a 3 tech, especially in round 4. So just a really solid pick there for them. Um, Now here in round 5 again, I mean they got a good amount of picks left to fill out this roster, so probably gonna be double dipping, probably taking a lot of PPA, a lot of guys that just don't necessarily need, but guys that are just pretty good, you know. So that's kind of gonna be the vibe probably the rest of the way out. And there's a guy down here. I'm gonna take Andrew Voorhees. I know he's out for the year. Well, he tore his ACL at the combine, so more than likely he's out for the year. But the Packers can afford to, they're one of the few teams that can afford to draft a guy and not let him start right away. But next year he can immediately come in and pretty much compete for a starting job. And that's kind of what the Packers like to do. They really like to kind of always be rotating their offensive linemen. They like to develop some of these guys. So I think taking, Voorhees, if it's a normal draft, he's going back in round 2, early day 3. You get almost a 2-round, round and a half fall for him. I think that makes a lot of sense if you're the Packers. Now, and they just got a lot of picks near the end of the draft down here. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm going to go back to the double dipping of interior offensive lineman, maybe one that's more versatile, or just, maybe I'll just do it right here as well. There's some solid guys left. I don't say there's anybody great, but there's definitely some guys to like that are still available. Let's go ahead. Some wide receivers. There's some guys that I kind of like for them too. I just don't know how they really feel about the wide receiver room. I know they drafted Watson and Dubs. Obviously in this one we have Scott too. So are they going to do anything else? Are they going to add another young guy? I don't really know. They still kind of could use another tight end with Mercedes Lewis gone, Robert Tonyan gone. They have Josiah DeGuara, but they still could use another tight end if we're being honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him another tight end. I'm gonna give him Britton Strange just because he's not Mercedes Lewis by any means, but he's a very good blocking tight end, and he's got some upside as well in the passing department. But if you go look at the PFF stuff, I know it's not everybody's favorite. He was a top 10 run blocker 2 years ago, top 5 pass blocker this year from the tight end spot. So he can help a lot, and that's kind of like what they look for in tight end. So now you can have him and Mayer on the field at the same time. Not really know what's coming. You're not really predictable, but you're just getting a really good value there with Britton Strange regardless. So that's kind of their pass rushers. Probably not going to touch on another one unless there's just a ridiculous value or something. But I'm going to we need to address some of these safeties a little bit here. I'm going to give them DeMarco Helms from Alabama. They just need somebody back there, to be honest. I think, Alabama's produced some good safeties in the past. He kind of gets overshadowed with Brian Branch doing a little bit of everything, but that's kind of how Alabama is. They have a couple stars on the secondary, and they have a bunch of quality role players, and they tend to get overshadowed and tend to go on to be better pros than what they were in college. And I think Helms kind of fits that description as well. Obviously, he might not be the best player in the NFL, but there's definitely some skills and some traits that you like that could allow him to develop into that. So now, I mean, they still kind of need offensive tackle, and I'm gonna take City Sell from Eastern Michigan, just because he's been impressive every time I watch him. He gets more and more impressive to me. He can just do a little bit of everything. He can be your offensive tackle, but he's also got some experience inside a guard. He just moves really well. He's a big guy, and again, just like I talked about with Voorhees, they like guys that can do a little bit of everything. They like guys that have specific traits that they could build upon, and Green Bay does a phenomenal job at playing offensive linemen to their strengths and getting them in and just letting them develop. So I think taking a shot on 2 developmental offensive linemen for the Packers always seems to work out, and that's no different here. Now for the rest of the way, there's just it's there. I mean, we're in the 7th round here. You're not necessarily slim picking, but you don't got the most to work with. I know linebacker's not the most massive need for them. They could honestly draft a backup quarterback if we're being honest. They have Love. Really, I'm not sure if they've signed anybody to technically back him up yet. They might have. I can't put a name to it. Again, running backs as well. They don't necessarily need them, but a lot of the people they have are slowly older, be contracts, maybe getting cut, just whatever it is. Let's go look at the corners. I think a lot of these guys aren't necessarily going to be here to be honest with you. There's a lot of solid guys down the board, but I'm gonna go ahead and give him Arquan Bush from Cincinnati. Bush is one of those guys, not that necessarily he can go play safety, but he can do a lot of different things for you. He's just very, very physical for a cornerback, and that's kind of what you like if you're drafting somebody this low. You like the guy with confidence. You like the guy that will continue to bet on himself. Again, corner's not the biggest need, but I think when you compare a guy that has a confidence of Bush and put him in a room with a guy who's uber confident in himself and Jair Alexander, there's a lot that he can learn from him. Even if he was terrible, there's a lot to learn from one of the best corners in the game. And taking a developmental corner down here at 242 is certainly not the worst thing in the world. I haven't mocked anybody a kicker yet, but it would not surprise me if the Packers were the first team to take a kicker. I'm not going to do that. But it's definitely a possibility. I'm going to take a look at some of these edge and defensive linemen. Again, it's not the biggest need for them. I don't. Is there anybody that I think that can kind of do both? Be a little bit of a tweener between, maybe a inside outside. Now, I think if we're doing anything, Jalen Redmond probably possesses that the most, just because he's such a great athlete. So just give him a little bit of more versatility there. Yeah, that's how this Packers draft shook out for us today. There's a lot of ways this can go. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers trade is going to give him more picks. Once they have more picks, maybe they want to move up. Maybe they want to just keep stockpiling picks and they move down, whatever. But they can do a whole lot. They can do a whole lot right now. They can only do so much more once they get the Aaron Rodgers picks in their organization. This is a pretty general idea of how I think the Packers would like to tackle it. I think tight end makes a lot of sense early. I mean, tight end early makes sense, yes, but if they go any direction, you should not be surprised either. I just like the fit with Michael Mayer in Green Bay. Derek Hall, really underrated edge rusher. Tyler Scott, I think Tyler Lockett when you're thinking of him. A good pass rushing upside, just well-rounded defensive lineman in Ojmo. And then Andrew Voorhees, you're getting some, obviously he's hurt, a little bit of a run, 1 year off, and then he can come back and he can contribute to your team in a big way. Still massively strong human being, good blocking tight end that they like. And then some developmental guys down here at the board filling out the safety position, versatile offensive lineman, a good solid cornerback, and a good solid defensive lineman that can be very versatile for you. That's going to wrap up our Green Bay Packers team-specific 7-round mock draft as we inch closer to the real NFL draft. Make sure you follow along on all TWSN social media so you do not miss your team-specific 7-round mock draft. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys here again on the TWSN YouTube channel soon.